Welcome to the Necromon and Ghost gameplay guide video. First off, we're facing against Ghostmon. Also, we got a whole ton of new support with DNA, Blast DNA, and all that stuff. We are going second, so I decided to keep this hand, which is pretty good overall. And we're gonna have 3 members to work with, which is nice. I have Tsukaimon, which I can digivolve. I'm gonna draw an extra card. I can also use Analog Youth to search for my level 4 afterwards anyways. And I did find a Bakemon after digivolving Tsukaimon, so I can actually choose a way on how I want to climb up and build up my stack. I'm gonna grab another Tsukaimon so that I have a secondary rookie to work with. Having Analog Youth is so crucial to so many of these combos, even just better than having Violet, just because you get to continue to loop, continue to hatch, and continue to keep up your momentum again and again with this deck, which has some really cool, crazy combos, which really makes you guys feel like you're really playing as Violet inboots if you guys read the Liberator comic series as well. You know, shout outs to that. You guys should definitely read it too, which is really, really epic. But anyways, here on the opponent's side, they're going to go into Quadramon. They're going to continue to attack. They can use the Dracomon starter main to gain that additional memory attack with jamming as well. A pretty safe check overall. And with that, Ghostmon sometimes feels like a relatively slower deck. It has really, really powerful control tools, but it does definitely take quite a bit to get up there. But this is where we didn't expect the opponent to actually just hard play that Groundramon, triggering the Quadramon's effect to digivolve into Wingdramon, and then now they can go ahead and end of turn DNA, and there you go. There's an Ghostmon Blast right there, Ghostmon Ace on the board that we're gonna have to deal with, that has evade and blocker, insect +1 with a lot of chunky inheritables, but we're gonna have a lot of memory to work with. So I feel pretty confident right here. We can try to address this, but this is tough because Ghostmon evade does play around any deletion effects as well, so they can easily just suspend themselves, and they have effects that can unsuspend themselves afterwards too, to continue to block and disrupt us and control the board, which is very reminiscent of the same old playstyle of the other Ghostmon. So these are really good, fantastic new additions for the deck. But enough about theirs, it's more about us, what we're trying to do here. I'm going to do and climb up into Necromon. I want to build my stack, continue to set up sources, set up stuff that I can have and utilize and play the Wisdom training, which I will find the Apparition Legion option, which is going to be really important for us later on. But now it's the end of turn. We get the choice to execute. There's nothing to really need to sort of like utilize from trash. There's not enough 9 cost total of stuff that we can utilize to use the option just yet, but I want to go ahead and actually swing for the 2 checks and see if the opponent wants to block. If they want to block here, they get to unsuspend, and then they get to, like, you know, play around and execute on all that kind of stuff. But we are going to gain our memory back enough, and if the checks go through, we can actually get rid of that Ghostmon very, very easily. So it's kind of dangerous for them. We can kind of retain our turn. So it looks like they let us go through, and they didn't block with the Ghostmon, because, you know, potentially we could actually try to get rid of it afterwards. We do have other sort of plays that we can kind of go for and continuing. We're gonna play around that 1 evade and 1 unsuspend. Evade is actually not once per turn as well, so we're gonna have to find a way to make that, you know, suspend again, which is kind of problematic. But now we have a level 4 and level 5 to work with, which I'm totally okay with, because now I can potentially go into another Necron and trying to force delete it off its effect. But with that, we're not going to be able to attack with execute, because these 2 bodies that we have on the board have summoning sickness. So I'm not too sure how we want to go from here. We might have to just let that Ghostmon live for 1 more turn at the moment, but the longer it stays, the more problematic it becomes. So I decided to end the board with 2 Phantomons, and then we're going to go at it again the next turn, since we do have 2 Necromons to work with, which we can possibly get rid of it in the following turn. So we're trying to just set up for that. The first 2 checks was really just like a feeler to see if they want to sort of like go for it, or kind of like baiting them a little bit and see if they would block or not. But, you know, good thing they didn't, because that gave us the damage that we needed to sort of like set up the lethal that we need potentially for later on too. They're gonna go for their 2 checks and unsuspend right here. They can go for another 2 checks right here if they want to and really pressure against us, but they can't, because we can actually go for crazy amount of hits next turn, and they're not going to have anything that can sort of like block or stop or whatsoever as well. So they want to play it safe. They don't want to give us too much value either, so they're going to go for the option to play out the Dracomon and search and find additional pieces. This is sort of like where they go from here. Since the Ghostmon Ace is already out, I am not that scared of what they kind of dish out afterwards, because they're gonna have to pay a lot of memory, just like we saw before, or sort of like try to climb up into that 5, into that 6, and then DNA all over again. If they don't establish a level 6 on the board, or something that can potentially blast into an Ghostmon, I'm not worried. The Quadramon there is not going to do anything for them, but they just give us 1 memory. But we still have like 2 wisdoms to work with. We have so many resources. We have a rookie ready to come out, 2 analog use, which can help us pump up our memory as well if we get deleted as long as level 5 or higher. So I'm going to go ahead and digivolve into a Bakemon first, draw and cycle and find what other potential plays I can get into. And then I'm potentially going to use the second wisdom training to wanting to go into Necromon for sure. One of the ways that you always want to be sort of paying attention is playing a smaller body on the side with their big main body. That becomes a bit of a liability for them, just because now with Necromon, it always deletes the lowest level that they have. If the Examon was the only thing on the board, it would attempt to delete it, and then we can easily just swing into it with Execute or with Retaliation afterwards, and so on. And here, I'm deciding, okay, now it's the end of turn. Do I want to go for the checks? Do I want to bait them out to block, or do we want to go ahead and swing into the Examon that is already unsuspended? So either way, it's going to end up in the same situation. So we actually went for the security in the end because we want to go for the 2 checks. Again, the opponent is trying to, you know, be wary and trying to play around us, but little did they know they're actually falling into our trap bit by bit with Necromon. And then now we get to float bodies back out again. Analog gaining a ton of memory for us as well. We get to hatch out the egg and we get to keep turn. And now we get to play all over again. Of course, the bodies that we just played out can't attack, so we need to find a way to finish the game off, which we actually can because of the option card. So I'm not afraid. I'm just going to go ahead and attack and see if they want to block here at this moment. Will they let it through? Of course, they want to block. They get to unsuspend. So that's 1 unsuspend used, meaning they can only either block once more or evade us once. That means we might have a really good, decent chance where I'm going to go ahead and attack with a Bakemon. They let the attack go through and they didn't block, because if they block, we're able to execute them and actually, like, you know, attack into Retal and gain Ace Overflow, and they're not going to be able to keep that big stack on the board in the very end. So by doing so, Demi-Meramon will allow us to grab a source back, which we will also grab Phantomon. We also get to draw and trash one off the Bakemon on deletion effect. And of course, those 2 bodies we can't attack with, which is totally fine. But this is exactly where we are going to try and use the Apparition Legion option card to finish off the game. This is a crazy option that it doesn't matter the amount of memory that you give to your opponent, because we're going to be able to bottom deck the opponent's level 6 and level 3. We're going to play out the level 6, which is going to be Necromon. No level 3 to play out. That's Ghost Trait. That's fine. Necromon's on play effect is going to attempt to delete the Examon, which they have no choice but to evade. And thanks to the option card, we're going to have Rush, so then we can go ahead and execute and swing for game. Alright, so for the next game, we're facing off against Chaosmon, the all-new DNA with Valder Arm, which is really cool, really powerful deck as well, lots of fun. So let's get right into it. I decided to keep my hand just because I felt like, you know what, I see a full line kind of climbing up. I can find all the other searching stuff that I need. I have like Violet the Tamer to work with afterwards as well. So I did find up the Analog Youth in the end, which I definitely going to want to use to continue my search. And then we're just really just trying to pass each other to 1 memory every single turn here. Take the turn slow. I can digivolve into Soulmon, set up my stack, and sort of find a way, and then basically start doing my execute combos afterwards, because having that Analog Youth is just so crucial so that we can continue to cycle our eggs, continue to digivolve, as you guys know, but that's really where the combos come in. We're going to go ahead and attack the security with Phantomon right here with execute at the end of the turn, and then after that we can just delete ourselves and use the inheritables to actually get rid of the Liomon on the board as well, so there's no need to attack over it even if it was unsuspended to begin with. This gives us the psychability, because now having that extra rookie is going to be fantastic. We can digivolve into Skymon here, and then I want to digivolve into this Bakemon, which is why I decided to play the Candlemon off the Phantomon's on deletion effect, just so that I can digivolve into the Bakemon or Bakemon, so then I can play out the Violet for free as early as I can, because I want to get the Violet combo going as soon as I can, so then I can start digivolving by effects as well once I start doing my execution combos and so on. And it's just going to pay off ever since for the rest of the game, because we're going to gain memory constantly as long as the opponent has a Digimon on the board. I'm going to push out the Tsukaimon here and go ahead and attack, because my hand now starts to look a little bit bricky, which is why I want the Tsukaimon and actually have it potentially get deleted so I can grab a piece from the trash back, because now I'm kind of forced to digivolve into this Metal Phantomon. And with that, I don't really have anything that I want to delete and get rid of on their side of the board, but I do end up getting rid of the Tsukaimon anyways, even there's nothing to delete, just because I want to grab that Phantomon or grab some piece back so I can continue to build all over again. Unfortunately, I can't grab this Tsukaimon because it's not a ghost trait, but I do need a rookie to work with and reclimb all the way up And I felt like, okay, I do have the 2 Reapermons in my hand. I can potentially go into that Reapermon if I need to, one of them, and then even go into Ruin mode if I really want to like lock down the opponent later on as well. So they're going to go ahead and swing over our Metal Phantomon. We're going to try to gain memory and steal the turn back and try to do as much as we can. They're going to go for that check as well. And we're just trying to see here if we want to go for the scramble play. Now it makes sense because we get a stack a card and we get to play a card back on top, and I'm just trying to evaluate, okay, I do want to deal with that level 5 on the board right now just because it can be dangerous, because once they have a level 5 on the board, they can easily go into a Ghostmon. So by getting rid of that, then that gives me an opportunity to slow down their plays down, because once Ghostmon comes out, it's quite problematic. And I think Metal Phantomon is a very cool and very important card in this particular matchup. So in the end, I play out the Sukaimon and stack the Metal Phantomon, knowing that I actually want to utilize it and need it. Here I get to go into the Bakemon again, or Bakemon. I decide to go into Metal Phantomon once again. By doing that, I want to delete itself so that I can delete their level 5 on the board afterwards. We get to gain all that memory back with Inheritables and Analog Youth as well, keeping our turn, allowing us to continue to play, which is always nice. Now we have our rookie that we can work with in the back, and we also have a rookie outside with Ghostmon to find us the additional pieces that we can, passing them perfectly back to 3 as well. They did end up getting rid of our Ghostmon with the Liamon, but that's okay. As long as that's Sukaimon to work with, we're pretty okay in the next turn. We do have the Apparition Legion option in our hand, and I was contemplating of maybe using it, but I feel like this might be too soon just because we're only at 1 memory. Even with Violet, we're gonna be at 2. That means I'm passing like 6 memory to the opponent's side just to play the Apparition and play out a bunch of stuff from trash. Maybe not so much, but also keeping in mind that we have to see what they have on the trash. It looks like we might play out a level 5 or 4, but again, I don't want to give them too much memory because they can easily just climb all the way to a level 6 if they need to. So I'm going to push out the Sukaimon, go for a chip just because I want it to be deleted for the same reason, so that I can use the Demi Mirror to grab a source back off of it here and then continue playing and see where I want to go. But there's really not too much of a follow-up, so I decided to set up another Violet, so then eventually the next turn I can hatch and build my other stack that way. I still have 4 security, so I feel like I'm pretty relatively healthy, so I don't feel like I'm going to be getting like taken down that soon. And this is where we finally hatched our last egg, which, oh man, finally seeing our Necromon, which is great. So now I can focus on building a stack in the back. Again, I'm not being able to get the best use of the memory here, but I just passed them back to 3 anyways. But at least I have a Phantomon ready to go in raising, and I have a lot of these choices that I can go for my top end plays later on. And it's also really important, I'm definitely saving up the Metal Phantomon because it's going to be really important to actually counteract against this play they're about to do. They're going to go for this Singularity of Chaos. That's going to play out the Valdoran. And then with that, they can Digivolve into Bancho Leo. And then with that, they can go ahead and attack us if they want to as well. And they can go for their end of turn DNAs. And that's really nice. We find ourselves a Wisdom training off that security hit is going to be pretty helpful for us later on. We're going to get a lot of memory at the start of the turn. So they're trying to see if they want to go for the DNA. And we're also just checking like, okay, Singularity of Chaos, they can also like choose to tuck it underneath their other card, which is Liamon on the board, instead of Chaosmon. That way they can actually play around the minus DP reduction effect, so they can keep the Chaosmon on the board and set up partition, so it exerts quite a large amount of presence overall. Suspending down our Tamers too, which is a little unfortunate that we can't use it. We did make a mistake here. We did miss out an extra security check off the Chaosmon, but don't worry guys, that's actually doesn't really matter in the rest of the game on how it kind of pans out, as you guys will see in just a bit anyways. So we go for the Metal Phantomon, but we're not going to use this when Digivolving effect because we want to go into our Necromon regardless. By going to the Necromon, and thanks to that Wisdom training, we can actually go ahead and attack into the security, or we can actually go straight into the Chaosmon because we want to actually get rid of that big stack. And once we get deleted, since retaliation and all the undulation effects happen at the same time, we're going to go ahead and resolve the Metal Phantomon's on deletion first to de-digivolve that Chaosmon, so then we can then play out stuff, and then we can also use the retaliation afterwards in the end to get rid of the rest of the stack so they're not able to partition out. This is how you kind of play around that, because de-digivolve is just so good against that. And now we have a level 4 and a level 5 ready set up on the board, and they have nothing in the back, nothing ready to come out and raising. They're gonna have to start the hard play stuff, and only 2 TKs is not gonna be enough to help to sort of like sustain them, because I don't see a position where they can actually make a comeback from here, because we're gonna about to go for lots of attacks in the next turn as well. Sure, they can play that Liamon to go for more searching and find more pieces, but again, you know, at 0 memory now at this point, they might have to hard drop things. And knowing mostly this deck may not play any aces either, we should be quite okay as long as we can remove their stuff off the board before doing so. So all they can really do is go into level 4 with no egg left to hatch right here. Let's just go for the Necromon play to delete that Leomon out of the way, go for the 2 checks and finish it off right here. Alright, next game we're facing off against Mirage, which is still a very powerful competitive deck, so we're going to take it up a notch and see if we can actually face against it. Generally, purple does have a pretty weak matchup against blue decks just because they have a lot of like bottom decking, source stripping, bouncing, and we're going to lose a lot of our inheritables. We can also easily just like, yeah, not be able to get our on deletion effects going off. But one of the nice things with the Necromon deck is that we get to use our on deletion effects kind of preemptively ourselves by actually deleting ourselves, which is one way to sort of play around all the bouncing overall. And here we're just going to go ahead and set up and, you know, use wisdom training, find the cards that we need, and then we're going to be able to utilize them afterwards later on. But here it comes down to Siakomon, which is definitely a big bummer because it's going to stop us from being able to climb up. So I decided to switch gears a little bit. Okay, Digivolve the Soulmon, and my plan next is to go into a Phantomon or a level 5 to get rid of it afterwards. Setting up the Analog Youth first because it's going to be very important for us to maintain our momentum. Like always, being able to hatch our eggs. So I'm contemplating if I want to go into Metal Phantomon or just Phantomon itself. I'm going to go into Phantomon, but instead of actually just execute and attacking into their Siako, I'm actually going to attack into their security because I have the Soulmon on deletion effect to trash a card off my hand to delete that Siakomon there. I want to get rid of cards from my hand. And also that's why I didn't grab a piece back with Demimeramon, just because I felt like, okay, this is good enough to sort of like keep me in there. I really wanted to grab the Phantomon, but I think that was also just a strategic move to keep my hand size low, just so Mirage doesn't get too crazy in adding cards to our hand and start gaining a ton of memory either. And remember, if we add cards to our hand, we're going to be giving them a lot of advantages overall. And our hand is actually getting larger already by the second just by digivolving, cycling, drawing cards for a turn. And in this situation, I am missing pieces that I kind of really need to have to help me deal with that Mirage. I didn't really want to search, but I kind of have to go for Analog, grabbing the Chimera, but that means the Tax Dog is going to come in and take additional memory off of that as well. I really need to find a Necromon. I really need to climb up to one so that I can start deleting things, because Necromon can always attack into the Mirage if I need to, just in case. Finding Violet here is going to be pretty useful for us. It's going to definitely help pay off to help us, like, you know, control the board. But the opponent, in the meantime, they're getting so much memory, they're playing their own boost and setting up their board, and they can easily just climb up all over again. And yeah, the Modoki definitely shuts us down as well, because it slows down our effects to sort of gain memory as we get undeleted. But of course, with Necromon, like I said, we really need to get into one, and then if we get into one, we can actually start deleting everything and wipe out everything. So there is one in my hand at some point. I'm deciding if I want to go into a Metal Phantomon. Do I need to? That's the question. It's like, do I really need a D-Digivolve? But you know what? I don't think so. I'm just going to go into that Necromon, like I said, deleting the Modoki first, and then I'm going to go ahead and execute with Necromon, likely going to attack into the security, because afterwards we get to replay our stuff, gain memory back as well, and then we'll deal with the Mirage stack the second time instead. Because here we're going to delete ourselves, like I said, and then we're going to gain our memory back because of Modoki being gone. We can cycle, hatch, and do all that. We can grab pieces back or play stuff back. But here I'm thinking, okay, do I really need to grab something off here this time? I actually need to. I don't have a second Necromon, so I'm going to need to use the Demimer to grab the Necromon that I just lost. But that means the Tax Dog is going to come in again. And I'm going to miss my opportunity to actually digivolve into an egg on top of into a rookie to sort of keep my momentum. But I feel like I really need to get rid of that Mirage, because now I can use Violet after, you know, them gaining the memory and stuff. I can still use Violet to get into Necromon to delete and get rid of the Mirage there. But as you guys can see, they still have Scramble to work with. They can play out that Galmon, they can push out the Modoki, and then start like digivolving all the way up again, because they have like 2 boosts, a training, and go into the Galgamon right here, gaining that memory back as well, forcing me to draw additional cards. Now I'm really like holding a lot of stuff in my hand, which is going to be dangerous. Going to Huankun, play out the Modoki back here once again. And yeah, typical Mirage things. which is going to be difficult for us to really actually sort of try and stop. One of the things is with Necromon is I feel like there's a lot of crazy combos that you can pull off in your own turn, but during the opponent's turn, there's not a whole lot of interaction and defense you can really apply. We don't have blockers. The only way to gain blocker is through the option card as well, and that's the only way. We don't really play aces. There's no counters either, so they can just do whatever they want here at this point, going into Galga, playing out Thomas for free, make extra attacks, swing into us with jamming, and we don't even have bombs that can really like stop them here, you know. And yeah, going into burst mode, it's pretty much doomed here at this point, but it really looks like, you know what, at least we tried. You know, if we're able to get into our Necro a little bit earlier to get rid of that Mirage, maybe just a turn bit earlier, that would have been much better position, but that's okay, we'll get them next time. Make sure to get your very own Initialize Spar collection on the AVAULT store right now, and definitely watch the latest Battle Vault episode to get exclusive discount codes for this latest drop. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you next video, and this is AVAULT signing out.